Hey guys, check it out. My name's Quasey Wilson. We're back on the Blue Collar Revolution podcast here at Gillette, Wyoming, Western Welding Academy. We got Nate coming. He's one of our instructors. We're going to be talking about some of the dangers out in the field, what inspires him about being a teacher. We're going to be diving into his past, looking at the things he's done before coming to us as an instructor at Western Welding Academy. It's going to be a good one. Make sure you check it out on the Blue Collar Revolution podcast. Mr. Nate.
Hello, sir.
How are you doing today?
Awesome.
Welcome to the Blue Collar Revolution podcast here. I'm going to be pretty straightforward, ask some questions. I just want to get to know you, your experience in your life. And so tell me, how long have you been at Western Welding Academy now?
Over a year and a half now.
A year and a half. Very cool. What were you doing before Western Welding Academy?
So actually I was working in Sheridan. I was doing some construction. I was doing building apartments and stuff like that. I just kind of took a break. It doesn't matter what I'm doing. I just have a passion for building. It doesn't matter if I'm using iron or wood or whatever. Like, I just enjoyed that. So I took a little break from welding, did that for a little bit, just enjoyed Sheridan for a while. And then I got a call and said, hey, you want to come do this? I'm like, yeah, let's check it out.
You ever teach before or anything like that, or first time teaching?
No, I've never, first time teaching.
Cool. Since you never have taught before, what has been your experience as you've gone from being in the industry and then being a teacher? Kind of what is that transition like?
Oh, it's so amazing. It's just like, it's good to just have like I said, by the passion that I have for the trade and to see the students and to teach them and know what's ahead of them. They have no idea they have an idea what's gonna happen in front of them, but you know what I mean? And then they're like, oh, I think I'm gonna do this. I'm like, yeah, but I know what it is. So that makes me excited. It makes me wanna encourage them to do better and to teach them everything I know so they can have that experience that I had out in the field and stuff. And it's just so amazing, you know what I mean? I'm almost jealous, like I wanna do it again.
Yeah.
But I can do it again through them.
Sure. How long have you been in the blue collar industry?
Since I was 16, I started working construction.
Working construction, so just like building houses and stuff like that, or?
Yeah, I was doing some roofing and some concrete work. Worked on a drone rig for a little while. When I was 17, I started industrial construction. So I worked for a company called TIC. Traveled around, actually went through their apprenticeship program that they offered, which was pretty amazing. So I did that, become a pipe fitter and a welder, and then just went from there and just traveled the United States doing different jobs here and there.
So what was it that got you into welding? Like, what did you know somebody? Did you stumble into it? Like,
I did. Ever since I was really young, I was always wanting to know like how things work. You know, like I was really interested. I could see my stepdad and like see how they could, and my uncles and stuff, how they could just build things from wood and metal and like build a bed on a truck, build a bumper. So I'm like, man, and I was really fascinated, like seeing them cutting things with a torch. So I'm like, man, I want to do that someday. You know what I mean? And then we'd do some scrapping here and there when I was a kid and stuff. So I used a torch and got pretty good at it. And then my friend's dad, he had a welding truck too. So we got to do some welding. And like I said, once again, I just saw what they could do. And just, I've always had a passion for it to build things and to figure out how things work. And ever since then, I'm like, I'm going to do this someday. No matter what. You know, I'm 8 years old and I'm like, I'm going to do this. Yeah. You know what I mean? And then that's like, okay, then it comes to it and I'm like, whatever it took, I made sure that this is where I'm at in my life and around the people that could teach me things and learn from it. So,
describe a little bit about your first welding job.
My first welding job, actually I started out, like I said, I went to the apprenticeship program through TIC. I went through it for welding and for pipe fitting. And my first jobs were actually, I was apprentice pipe fitter for probably the first couple of years of my career. Did a little welding here, like structural stuff, and then I'd get on another job and it would need me like, hey, can you weld and fit? I'm like, yeah, I can do both. So then the next one's like, oh, we just needed to weld. So I'm like, okay, I'll just weld. So then it just got more into just welding and less fitting, or both at the same time. So it's still pretty young. I was probably in my early 21 years old, somewhere around there. It was pretty cool. It was cool just to be around, meeting the people that I meet. And you think, the world is so big, but actually it's very small. You meet the same people. I worked a job in Washington to Florida, and I'm like, oh, I probably won't know anybody down here. Sure enough, there's this dude I knew. I'm like, hey man, what's up? You know what I mean?
That's
cool. Crazy stuff. So it just shows you how small the world actually is. But
small world and a tight industry.
Yes.
You tell the kids all the time, it's really a lot of it. It's who you know and being personable, building relationships. It's important.
Yes. Yeah, and then meeting people later on in life that you worked with 30 years ago or 20 years ago, Even at our weld comp, I met a guy that was helping us ref. He's like, hey, remember we did this job down here? I'm like, man, I do. I remember that. I'm like, yeah, we did this. And I'm like, yeah, that was super fun. And we were working on this project and stuff. And it was just neat to kind of just relate back to how it is. And then also the other thing is, as being an instructor here, is to meeting some of the parents. They're like, hey, remember we worked together doing this project, you know what I mean? And this is like, I saw your videos and stuff like that, and that's why I said, hey, I'm gonna have my kid go here. So like, I'm like, holy crap, I'm like, that just blows me away. You know what I mean? They're like, yeah, we're looking at this school or this school, and then we saw you here, like, yeah, you're going here.
That's cool.
It's just like, yeah. And then, so that's what keeps me driving every day. It's not even work to me. It's just come in and hang out.
When you were younger, getting into the blue collar industry, what was the hardest thing you think you had to learn? The
hardest thing I had to learn, probably just patience, to really understand that there's so much that's involved in it. It's not just welding. It's just not just pipe fitting. It's like how everything has to work together to come into one to make things happen. You know what I mean? For a big construction project, you have your foundation, you have the electricians, you have the millwrights. Everybody has to work together and work in sync to make it happen. You know, and you can't hang any pipe unless the iron workers done it. The iron workers can't do anything until the concrete's done. The concrete can't be done until the electricians and stuff do all their dirt work. You know what I mean? Right? So on and so forth. So that stuff was interesting to see and just be like, all right, let's do this. Well, we have to wait for this, and then also being around the equipment, like the big cranes, the big loaders, the big stuff like that. You know what I mean? The big trucks and stuff that bring in the equipment, and that was really interesting. And rigging and stuff was very interesting to me too. Like flying stuff around and let's make this happen. And so it was fun.
I did a lot when I worked out at Cordero Rojo at one of the coal mines. I remember the big old overhead cranes picking up these shovel buckets, and you're just like, holy smokes! Like, I don't want to be anywhere near that thing.
Yeah, I was working for a company called Mincirco, but it's pretty young then. I think I was in my early 20s, and we're like had this big bucket, like 175 cubic yard bucket. You know what I mean? 100,000 plus pounds. They're like, yeah, we got to flip it over, and I'm like, I did some crane training and stuff like that, and they're like this, and then all of a sudden I'm running the crane and start doing it, and then I'll turn around, I'm like, there's nobody here. You know what I mean? I'm like, what is about to happen? Somebody didn't tell me, and sure enough, when that thing flipped over, he had to kind of catch it and just, boom, kind of shook it and like, okay.
Terrifying.
Terrifying. Yeah. Scared to death. I'm like, here goes my job. I'm going to rip this building down, you know what I mean? But it did, and it's like, yeah, you did a good job. I was like, holy crap. I thought I failed miserably, you know what I mean? But expecting to get chewed out, but I didn't.
So as you've gone through your career, and you've traveled around and you've met a lot of different people you've known for years, right? But out of all the jobs you've done, which one is your most favorite, and where was it at?
So, I was actually talking with one of the instructors the other day about one of the jobs. I did a job in Yazoo City, Mississippi. It was a nitric acid plant, which is fertilizer, so they make fertilizer. Ended up staying later and doing all the startup and stuff like that, and just to see what it takes to actually start up the facility and what kind of stuff can go wrong. You know what I mean? So like the different types of stainless valves that needed to be in there because the different chemicals are very corrosive. So we'd come in sometimes, like I remember very distinctly, we came in one morning, like, all right, everybody got to be here. This is where we're going to meet. And like this whole area is flagged off. We're like, what the heck, they're looking there. A couple floors up, they had installed an incorrect valve. And when they're running the stuff through there, the valve was eaten through by the chemical, and which came through and hit this pipe, and then watch over, hit this pipe, hit this grating, and just ate through everything, ate a hole in the concrete. So I was just like, holy crap.
That's crazy.
Like, how do you do this? And of course we had this big meeting, like, how we're going to attack this. And of course then we have to cut the sections of these pipe out, and they were very meticulous and like, it has to be this. And like we had the QC guy there checking our filler metal, and everything was double checking our valves and making sure they're stamped correctly, and everything was right. And then put all the grading back together, put the structure back together. We had some iron workers, and they're like, it was a whole thing. And then we had cutting the concrete out and putting, you know what I mean? Just was like, okay, well, let's try it again.
Wow.
And so it was like, okay, let's see what else can blow up.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. That's some powerful stuff too.
Yeah. So then with that too, it's like, it just made me realize too, like how hazardous, like how fast things can go wrong, and you know what I mean, what it takes to actually have the lifestyle that we have today, what it takes, you know what I mean, like how dangerous it could possibly be, and how important that it is to follow, and why they have safety guidelines and things like that. So much energy and stuff stored, especially with rigging and craning, like the energy that's stored in some of those straps, and it can really mess some stuff up.
There was a location I was working on in we were working for a compression company, and we went down, this meter building exploded. Like all the pipe was just twisted.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
just twisted. The welds were there, but the pipe was, I got a picture on my phone somewhere I can show you,
yeah.
but the pipe was just folded in half, you
Oh,
know,
yeah.
and it's just like, whoa.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't no small pipe either, you know, and it
Right.
freaking folded it up and like it was nothing, shot some stuff out in the field, and
Yeah.
it's just crazy the energy behind some of that stuff.
Some of the stuff is so huge, you know what I mean? Like I said, the I-beams and the tanks and the vessels that are just massive, you know what I mean? Like, I was down at Solvay down in Green River, Wyoming. I remember welding on a beam, you know, I mean, I'm 6'2", that I could walk inside the web of it.
Wow.
Like this, and then it took me 3 days to weld it together to a vertical column.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
So there, you know, and then doing some other stuff, being 240 feet in the air, little basket, and then
Yeah.
all the way, you know, and then like, here comes the storm, and
Yeah.
crap, you know. So now that I think about it too, I did another project here just north of town. They were doing some experimental stuff with coal, trying to get some liquid out of, I don't remember, it's called K-fuel, but we came in and they rebuilt that thing like 5 times because it would burn down. I'm talking about like pipe and stuff getting messed up, and that stuff burns so hot that like these giant I-beams, you know, like talking like inch thick, you know what I mean, this big, giant pieces of pipe just literally melted half of the building. You know what I mean?
Wow.
It was like, holy crap.
A little R&D.
Yeah, a little close to home there too. So I was like, holy cow.
That's
But,
cool.
Yeah. So
And you know, when I think of stainless too, like you're talking about the fertilizer stuff, like I always think of like food grade,
sure.
you know, but
Sure.
I don't really think of like all those other versions of, you know, corrosive materials where you need that stainless in. And
Yes. You know, I've worked with a lot of powerhouses and stuff too. So that stuff's pretty interesting, like how the whole process of that, you know, coal-fired generator work, you know, boiler work. So, so I find that interesting too, like what it takes. Like, yeah, you see them digging up coal, like, okay, what are they doing? You see this giant, massive building, you're like, and you see these stacks, like, oh, that's smoke going out there, but it's actually
It's
not.
steam,
It's
yeah.
just steam. It's
Right.
actually cleaner air than it is that's out here.
yeah, I know that's the funny part. People are like, oh my gosh, you look pointing at town
Right.
like, oh, pollution. It's like, dude, it's steam coming out of
Steam.
there.
Yeah.
Regulations are so high on everything. They're not just polluting our air. I
Oh,
grew
yeah.
up right next to the Wyandotte power plant, and I am okay.
Probably a little shorter than you think, probably,
Not even missing a few brain cells, but that's something else.
but- No, it's fine. Yeah, I used to tell my kids I was a cloud maker, which I wasn't really lying, but it actually
Yeah,
is in a
yeah.
sense. But yeah, like I said, interesting. The passion that I've had, that always want to know how things work, and just want to know and gather information about it, and what I can do to be a part of it. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, curiosity is a powerful tool that I think a lot of people don't utilize. Like, I'm the kind of the same way. I hate myself for it, but for me to understand how something functions, I got to know how it works down to the molecule and the atom, and then I'm like, oh, like, and it might be
Yes,
something
yes.
stupid simple, but my brain makes it way more
Right.
complicated than it needs to be.
Right.
But that curiosity has driven me to learn more and more and more about subjects that don't even pertain to what I
Right.
do.
right, and I've worked at a few paper mills and recycling plants and stuff. So you remember a few years back, like, oh, there's toilet paper. I'm like,
Oh yeah.
they make it here. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
literally seen them make it. You know what I mean? Like, I know it's here. Like, it's not going to be, you know, it's not.
Right.
It's so funny that how the public doesn't know what happens, or where their meat comes from and stuff like that, you know. But
Yeah, well, and then part of that
taste it.
too is just like the lack of understanding of what it takes
yes.
from blue collar people to keep this
Oh, absolutely.
going. You know, like it's
Absolutely.
so every little thing you do, you know,
Yes.
down to the soles of your shoes,
Yes.
coming from plastic, coming from oil, like it's all part of this big chain of blue collar people
Yes.
making it
the
happen.
road you drive on, you know, like, oh, there's a pothole you hit, and like, oh, somebody would fix that. And who's that somebody?
Yeah, right.
He's gonna have
Yeah.
to work at like, yeah, they get some people get a better rap. Oh, you're dirty oil filled, or you're dirty this. Like, okay, but you like this, you like this,
Right.
you like
You
the
like when
lights
your
on,
phone is
you
charged
like
and your house is warm, don't
house
you?
is warm. You know what I mean? Then that's
Right.
what it takes. And so I really enjoyed it. Like that, I've worked on rigs and, you know, industrial construction, mining, oil and gas. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I remember most that my instructor told me is like, be well-rounded. You know what I mean? Be able to do whatever it takes. You know what I mean? And that stuck with me, and that's what I try to encourage my students as well. Is like, hey, yeah, you might be welding. Like, it doesn't matter if you're going to be good at this, but you're going to be good at that. You know, you're
Right,
good at
yeah,
this.
make
You
yourself-
know, so make it self-marketable. Make yourself available to like do whatever it takes to get the job done. They're like, And then sometimes you see it click. We call them aha moments. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Aha. And they're like, yeah. I was like, okay. And so that's just, like I said, I enjoy that part of it as well. But
In all the time that you were out there working in welding, how many times, or was there a time where you failed?
oh, absolutely.
And you had to like fail the weld test or got fired from a job? Like,
Yeah, I don't think I've ever been fired, but I
That's
mean, I
good.
definitely made it a point not to do that. I mean, I had some responsibilities that I needed to take care of. You know, raise my family, make sure that they were taken care of. That was number one. So, in order to provide for them to have a better life than I did, I feel I had to make sure that I had a job no matter what. So, of course, they say measure twice, cut once. But I remember when I was an apprentice. You know what I mean? I'm like, okay, doing this. Measuring some stuff, got it all laid out. This is what it is, and it was raining, so I was kind of in a hurry. Like did this, and then I'm off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just checked it. My boss had already done it. He's putting me to the test. Like he's like, you already had it all figured out, and he had all the measurements himself, but he let me do it and watch me do it and see if I would mess up. You know what I mean? Because it was raining. I'm like, I did, and he's like, you need to catch this, and like when you're fitting and doing a lot of measuring and stuff, you tend to know how thick your torpedo level is. You need to know how thick your 2-foot level is. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
like your square is 2 inches or 1.5 inch on the other side. You know these things because you measure here, and then you're like, I'm 1.5 inches off.
right.
So, like I said before, I really enjoy to fabricate. It's probably
Yeah.
my most passionate thing that I like
Yeah,
to do as
same.
far as welding. And I just finished building my house a couple years ago. Took me 2 years to do it, but so that was very exhausting in its own, but very rewarding.
Yeah, fabrication is probably my favorite. I love taking raw iron
Yes.
and creating something useful out of it. To me, that's like super rewarding. It's not very weld heavy, like
Sure.
MIG weld and stuff together. It's not weld heavy, but
No, it's definitely
I
not.
love just building stuff. To me, that's
Yes.
just so fun.
Yeah.
How important would you say pipe fitting is and learning how to measure and fabricate like stuff?
Oh, it's equally as important. I mean, we could teach monkeys how to burn rod.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
we could do that, but like to actually go beyond that and be like we were talking before, like to understand like why you're building the spool piece? Okay, well, what's the rest of this spool piece? Like why does it have to be an 1/8 inch? Why does it have to be this? Like how does this do this? And just to have that knowledge. I mean, you can't just be one show or what do they call one pony show or one
Yeah.
show pony or something
Yeah.
like that. Whatever. Like you can't be that way.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's
Unless you just don't care when
Yeah.
you don't want to work.
yeah. I mean,
You know?
if you want to be just a checker at Walmart, I mean, that's
Yeah.
what you're going to be for the rest of your life. And not to back we need those people as well. But you know what I'm
Right,
saying?
right,
But
right.
like far as like you're going to limit yourself on what you can do and who's going to hire you, what jobs you're going to get. But like I said, that's do everything. Sweep the floor.
Right. Yeah,
Clean
absolutely.
the toilet if they ask you to.
Right.
If you're on the payroll.
Right.
Do whatever they want you to do.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And it's not just welding. Like I said, you might have to shovel mud. I worked on, like I said, in the mining and stuff like that, and a lot of grease, which is very disgusting.
Yeah. And hydraulic oil
So
stinks,
hydraulic oil
man.
is like I absolutely hate crater and grease and hydraulic oil and gasoline smell and just
Yeah.
like I used to tell everybody, yeah, I'm allergic to it, and they're like, oh, really? I'm like, yep.
Real bad.
Oh yeah,
Definitely. So what would you tell a kid that's a young kid, 17, 18 years old, just getting into the career like these students that we work with? What would you be like the best advice that you could give them getting into the career besides being, multifaceted so you can be employable, but what other advice would you give them?
The advice that I got is to basically shut up and listen and take advice and and interpret that advice how you need and ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask any question if you don't understand it. I did that and I took that to heart. I'm like, okay, I need to learn from these old guys. These people, not necessarily old guys, but older people when I was young, like at 17, 18, okay, this guy's doing this. Like, how do you get this figure? How do you come up with this equation? Or like, you know what I mean? Where is this? And like, they see that you're teachable, they're going to tell you everything you need to do to help you be successful. And that was a huge point in my life. Like didn't take me long from being an apprentice to being a journeyman. So that aspect helped a lot. So that's what I tell them, like, just
listen.
Just listen sometimes. And I know it's very difficult because they're young, they're very energetic. They want this now. It's like, be patient and this will come to you. So
Patience, yeah.
patience is very difficult to get them to understand.
So what is a long-term goal that you've set for yourself in your career? And have you gotten to it? Are you close? Or
So actually, I do have goals, and that's the other thing I do tell my students is like, start out small. Start like with a daily goal. Hey, what do you want to do today? Do that, and then a weekly goal, and so on and so forth, monthly, and go 6 months and a year. As far as the goal, my life goals, one of us, I always wanted to be. I always want to be a teacher. Like eventually, you know what I mean?
That's
like
cool.
I always saw myself like I'm going to be a teacher someday. So like now I'm like, okay, I'm a teacher. Okay, so then I'm like, all right, I'd like to be a CWI. So that's in the works right now too. So,
Nice.
so I'm going to do. You know what I mean? This. The other one, like I said, I'm like, okay, I want to be able to have some property and build a house that I designed and have everything how I designed it, how I want it, and build it how I want. Like,
Yeah.
So I've done that. You know what I mean? So like, you know what I mean? So on and so forth, and just I have my family close to me. Okay, like I do. Like my son lives actually on the same property, and my mom lives here. My sister lives over here. You know what I mean? So I have family close, and so things are happening. Like things are really all coming together that I wanted. So
That's awesome.
Grandkids are close. Like it's fun. So.
You're just, what's next? Retirement?
I don't know. Just keep going. Just keep going. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
And what I've learned is that whatever you want, if you have an absolute passion for it, an absolute desire for it, there's nothing that can get in your way. You can 100% make it happen. Like, oh, this is really hard to do. Like, this is impossible. Nothing's impossible.
Yeah.
You have your mindset for it, it's going to happen. You know what I mean? Like,
Determination.
determination, like, so.
When you hear the stereotype, right, like, hey, you won't be successful unless you go to college. Tell me what your thoughts are on that.
On that. Okay, well, as being a blue-collar worker my entire life, yeah, college may be necessary for some people. So for some, like, I don't know what.
Right.
No, I really do. You know what I mean? But
Yeah,
for some
yeah.
degrees and stuff you have to have. It is helpful, you know what I mean, to be very educated. It is very helpful. But as far as like a college versus a trade school, I'm trade school hands down. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just because you work with your hands, you're out in the elements a lot of times, or not. Whatever you're doing, if you're framing, you're an electrician, like I said, you're doing stuff and making things happen. And for me, the most rewarding part is like I can step back from a project, or I can drive by somewhere like, hey, I helped build that, or you know what I mean, or I did that. And if I'm with somebody or with family, we're like, hey, let's doing this. Or we fly over somewhere, and we're like, yeah, see that down there? I was part of that. I built that. Or
I think that's the average dad experience.
yeah,
Just riding in the car as a kid, and dad's like, I built that, and I did
It
this.
is, yeah, oh yeah. Like the bigger cities and stuff, you see like that, and you see how the structures were built together, and you're like, not that I did that, but I'm like, okay, this is what this is. And you're like, as a welder, like it is so funny, like you inspect welds everywhere you look, and
Yeah. Walking across the bridge, you're like, oh, geez.
you're like, that might hold or might not. And then, I remember when my kids were younger and we'd be on the carnival rides and such like that. And I'm like, look at that thing there. Like, and they're just like terrified, which was amazing. You know what I mean?
Tighten it
like,
up
you
a little
better
bit.
tighten up. I said, that thing's about to break off there. So
I think carnivals run strictly on faith.
they do. It's 100% true.
So, what is your opinion on going to a trade school versus learning in the field?
Yes, I agree with the trade school first, get the basic knowledge. And like I said, as I did it, I went to both at the same time. Like it was like a 4-year program. So I would go to trade school for 4 weeks a year, and then I'd get all the rest of my training in the field. So absolutely learn how to do it, get the base, to know how to what it is. What's a rod? What's this? What does 7018 mean? What does this stuff mean?
Polarity
polarity, like all the little
yeah.
basic stuff like this, and then like actually know what the puddle does and what happens. But then there's so much more to learn out in the field, like we're talking about the safety issues, and like I said, mainly like the safety and like what's going to happen and the different scenarios you're going to be put in, and how to do that. So that's why learn that you have that knowledge, and then learn this, and then by the time when those come together, you're almost unstoppable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, I always, I tell kids all the time, because I get that, kids are like, well, I can just go learn in the field. I'm like, you can. Right? Absolutely, no denying that.
Yes.
But what is your time worth?
Yep.
You're at the mercy of whoever's teaching you. And if you decide that you're going to go work in the field, that guy might just want you to be his helper forever, and he might not want to help you, or he might.
Yep.
You might get someone that's really awesome. So.
Yes.
I know a few guys that are like that are super helpful, and then there's some that are like, oh, you're going to take my job.
Yeah, that is true. You know what I mean? But yeah. So as far as me, is like I've been, in supervision for several years, and like what I look at is like, okay, this as far as the background, if they have that type of background, then I know that they know way more as far as like they're wiser. I guess they have more information, they have more knowledge about really why this 718 and what affects it and why it's welding like this versus somebody that just like learned how to run a puddle, like run a bead, you know what I mean? They like, oh, this is why this is doing this. This is polarity's wrong. This guy's this arc force, blah, blah, blah. Versus somebody that's
just picked it up and kept going until they got it.
They just know they have a deeper understanding of what's going on.
The ROI on trade schools is pretty high.
Yeah.
And you're not going to see that right away. You know, it's going to take a year, a couple of years, but once you get in the field and start learning, and it's going to turn around and pay you back so fast. And
it does, and it's like I said, I've worked with several young men and women that come out of trade schools, and they're just like, oh, I know this, and they think they know everything. But then you have to like that's the okay, listen. Humble moment here, like I'm glad that you do, and I really appreciate that, and they understand, like torque and this, and the logics of everything, but logistics, I guess, of everything. But then once they get a few years in them, like I said, they're a very wonderful person to work with, and they're very knowledgeable, and you can go to them and this guy, what I mean? They're looking this way. As soon as they get to that and they're like, start progressing, start getting more money, start getting more responsibilities, like, oh, I'm becoming a man, I'm becoming a woman, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Like they just go with it.
Yeah, adulting.
So, adulting.
I didn't sign up for this.
So, but yeah, and we, and like I said, through my history of working with younger people, that I always try to tell them about their financial reasons too. Like, it's good money, but it's not gonna. It can't. It's not guaranteed. It cannot be here tomorrow.
Right.
So make sure you're not just blowing it.
Yeah. Have some financial literacy, and they don't really teach you that in school either.
No.
We try to. I know we touch on it a little bit. It's not a big factor. We're not a financing school, but you don't want those kids that are just graduating making really good money, 80 to 100,000 right away, and they're just, I'm gonna go get an $80,000 pickup
and just blow it,
and a camper, and
then they're like, I can't eat today,
right?
But I
got laid off because whatever, and
yeah. Then they ask mom and, hey mom, mom, dad, let me have some money. I need some money. So yeah, so I try to teach them that, like, like, hey, save that money if you can. Always have a nest egg, and that's always worked out for me. You know what I mean? Just because you never know, like, what could happen. Like, some extra Christmas money, truck breaks down, you know, whatever you need. Something happens. But usually with it, like I said, with the kids happen. You have kids, is a huge expense. So don't have a family until you're ready to. I try to push that to them too. So
stay away from them girls. There ain't nothing but trouble.
Trouble, girls. Girls are trouble.
Working with the kids at the school. Okay, it's that the younger kids, the younger generations, and we hear all the time. We hear people like, "Oh, we're so screwed, and we're in trouble." The next generation, So, what is, just as a teacher that has gotten to work with these kids firsthand? What is your experience with them? What is your thoughts on that?
Okay, as a whole, because I remember, my grandparents saying the same thing,
right,
and then my parents saying the same thing, and I'm like, and then I think about that. That's a good question. I really like that because I've thought of that several times. I'm like, we've made it hundreds and thousands of years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And our population is growing, everything's getting better. Like, we're not going backwards in time. You know what I mean? We're going advanced. And so far as like, these kids are doomed, I wouldn't raise a kid in this generation. Like,
I know.
Like, that is complete BS in my book. You know what I mean? Like, we need people. We need blue collar workers. We need industrial workers. We need people to have people.
Right.
You know what I mean? To live the life we're going to do. We're not cavemen.
Right.
You know what I mean? Even cavemen, they needed people. You can just live by yourself.
Right.
So you needed somebody else.
Yeah, and I, being on tour and meeting thousands of kids all over, you hear that all the time. Oh, we're so doomed. I'm like, listen, they are savage in a good way. Like, they are just like, they want it. They're just as passionate as we are. I think a lot of the time, it must be just a generational stigma for the older generation to be like, oh, we're so doomed.
It is. That's what I said.
And then when, like you said, people are like, oh, this is a bad generation to have kids. It's like, dude, heated houses, cell phones.
Yes.
Like DoorDash, you get your food right at your front door. Like, this is the best time ever in history to have kids. Like, it's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, and being an older gentleman that I am, the people like talk about, like you said, cell phones and texting, and if we needed to call somebody, we remember their phone number.
Yeah.
We had the old road rage. you know what I mean, or whatever, you know, or you're like, hey, I'll meet you at 7, and you were there at 7. That's the thing that really drives me crazy. You know what I mean? It's okay, it's fine, but it's like you text me, hey, I'm here. Yeah, I told you to be here at 7. You know what I mean? Like, I expect you. I don't need to be like, hey, I'm outside of your house. Like, come to the door and knock or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
You're like, hey, I'm here. Like, where are you?
Yeah.
Like, be on time, and that's just weird to me. You know what I mean? It's still odd, but.
Well, you know, even my generation to my brother's generation. My brother was 4 years older than me. His generation was the park. You know, park at the park.
Yeah.
And meet there, or just drive laps through town.
Yeah, cruise.
From his generation to mine, that died.
Yeah,
we didn't do that. We didn't do that growing up. It was.
You didn't cruise around?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't like it was for my brother. I remember going with my brother one time, and like the cops ended up stopping people from doing that. Like you can't go sit and park in those. It's like you're loitering. You know, that goes away and it turns into Instagram and Snapchats and group messaging that way. Like it's a whole different.
It is, yeah.
Whole different ball game. Working at the school, working with these kids, giving them these skills. What's the most rewarding part for you?
Oh my gosh, there's so much. So like I don't even know how to really put it as the most rewarding. Probably the thing that I love the best about it is even if they don't graduate or they do graduate, whatever, that once they're out there working and they'll be like, hey, they send me a text, hey man, thanks. This is cool. This is what we're doing. And to me, it's like, that's a win. Like 100% win. Like, yes, that is so amazing to me. Like, because I know what it's like out there. You know what I mean? So I'm so excited for them. I'm like, yes, you're out there having fun. This time's going. They're like, yeah, we did this weld here. And just to hear the excitement and in their voice and, you know, how excited they are about moving on. Hey, we're going to do this. Hey, I'm going to go do this job in this plate, you know, over here and so on and so forth. And this is what they're paying. And then you send me a picture. Look at this weld they did. Look at this weld I did. You know what I mean? And I'm like, yeah, thanks for showing me this and being hard on me. And one actually just recently, because I get on them, they're like slow, like just give me 5 welds a day.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Pick it up.
Get it up. You're giving me 5 welds a day, or you know, and then they're like, and then I'm like, okay, listen, 5 welds a day, or you're gonna get, you know what I mean? It's just gonna happen. You know, and they're like, oh crap. So then they start doing 5 welds a day. Complain about it, and then they start doing them. They're like, then they're doing 5, then they're doing 6 welds a day, 7, 8 welds a day, just ripping through them and really progressing. And then so talking to some of my students, and they're like, yeah, remember when you made us do 5 welds a day? I'm like, there's 2 of them, you know, everybody around. They're like, yeah. They're like, 5 welds a day isn't it.
Yeah, it's nothing.
5 welds a day is nothing. I can't believe we had a hard time with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was like, yes, that is so cool. You know what I mean? It's like,
that's awesome.
It's awesome to try to push them, and I love how they, if you push them, how they reciprocate with it too. And so I try to push them, and sometimes I'm the hard ass. You know what I mean?
Yep.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I'm not your friend. You know, I'm not here to be your friend, and that's how I remember my instructor. Oh my God, that first year I was with him, I was like, this is not gonna work.
Right.
This guy is an a-hole.
Oh yeah, that's how my instructor was too, man. He yelled and screamed and.
He's about this tall, a little jarhead, you know what I mean? And just like, you will do this. And like, literally, if we didn't push in our chair in our class and went on break and didn't push our chair in, like we came back and we had to stand there like an idiot the rest of the class.
Oh my.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It was like, okay.
Right, and you think I'm being mean?
That's why I was like, you guys like this, like. And I remember my first year, like in the welding program, that was my fitting when I did that once when I was fitting. I never do that. I saw somebody say, like, I'm not pushing my chair in, you know what I mean? I remember cleaning the tip with a tip cleaner and it broke off in there and like accident, you know what I mean? Which it happens, you know what I'm saying? Like just those things are so small, and he's like, just peeling me a new one, up and down. How much does this thing cost? What the F are you doing? And I'm just like, ah.
Right.
But I'm like, okay, gotcha.
Right.
You know what I mean? Be very careful. And, you know, realize that this stuff does cost money. It's very, you know, it's just like, it's just not free. You know, it is, you know, whatever we're teaching, the materials we're using costs money. And it affects, not only affects you, now that's broke, but it affects everybody else.
Right.
You've damaged equipment, and then now they can't learn because you were dumbass and plugged this again, broke it off in there, you know? Like, okay, got it. Noted, very noted.
Oops.
Forever in my life, I'm going to remember that, so.
Yeah, I hope with some of these kids, it's going to be the same thing with in their lives with you. You
know, I hope so, yeah.
They're going to do something like, oh,
yeah,
freaking Nate.
Yeah, and I do. And like when I'm not working and stuff, I do also a mentor for Boy Scouts.
Okay.
So to see, you know, sometimes it's nice to go on trips and go on and camp outs with them and realize like, okay, these guys are little, And then I come back to work and work with older
Yeah.
kids, the same stuff going on, like
Yeah.
having a mental breakdown, like, oh my God, I'm not gonna make this weld, or we can't, like, it'll be okay, talk them through it,
Right.
talk them off the ledge, and get them in there and get them going, and then when it clicks, we call them aha moments, then they're like, thank you, you know what I mean? So it's awesome.
That's awesome. That's powerful.
Yes.
Super happy to have you on the team, Nate.
Yeah, man, I love it.
Appreciate you coming.
Yeah,
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for checking it out on the Blue Collar Revolution podcast. We had Mr. Nate Farnsworth with us. Great instructor. Super glad to have you on our team here at Western Welding Academy. You guys know what to do. Get down below, put in a comment, like, and subscribe. It helps us out. Thanks again. See you guys next time.